This is just a workshop for the semester, and we do different workshops in different areas every week in this room mainly. And these are the places where you can get help. The Student Success Center, where they have students who are tutors, as well as some instructors who work there from all the departments. And I know from the English department, there are some instructors who are there at different times. You can go there, make an appointment. So even if you're not planning to make an appointment anytime soon, you want to go there, visit them, give your information, just get your information in there so that you can get an appointment easily when you have something due, right? And the other place is smartthinking.com. You have to write this down if you have not already. It's a very, very helpful tool. How do I know it? I haven't used it yet, but my students have used it, and my students have said several times in classes, in different classes, even for example, one of my students had a Spanish paper and she submitted it. All you do is submit the document, and within 24 hours they'll respond to you and give you feedback on your work. And you can just revise it, go through it, and you'll learn by revising. You learn by just what comments they give you, and then you can send them another draft if that's the case. And she said she was really struggling, and she got an A in that class because of smartthinking.com. Yes?
Is there a limit to how many times you can submit your?
I don't think so. No. But what happens is that if you have a paper due next week, right? You should have an idea that almost all the students, especially in that subject, may have something due about that time, because all the syllabi are set up, basically with the same time frame. So they'll be busier at those points. So the earlier you're prepared, the more prepared you are, the better for you to send. The earlier you send it, the better chances of getting a better feedback. Yeah. But there's no limit, and they're very patient, and they'll give you a lot. And they're professionals, and they know what they're doing.
So I've submitted a paper to Smart Thinking before.
Oh, okay.
And so sometimes like the comments they put down is kind of hard to understand.
Okay.
Is there anybody here at the school that would be able to help you understand what they're actually saying if you can't understand it yourself?
Okay, that's a great point. There are a couple of things you can do. You can print that out, their comments, right? And see your instructor before or after class, or set up an appointment with them, or go to them during their office hours.
Okay.
That's one way to do it, and then go over it with them.
Okay.
Or you can take it to the Student Success Center and then make an appointment and talk to those people there about what it means. But my best bet is your instructor, because, and the other person would be a peer. Hi, what's your name? Mishak. Okay. A student in the class who you think has a handle on, and by now you know which are the students who have a handle on this topic, or on the way you do the paper. So you get together with them, because you will be surprised how amazing students are, how helpful they can be if you approach them, other people in your class. Don't be shy. Yes?
Where exactly is the Student Success Center?
Student Success Center is on the second floor of Bedford Hall.
Okay.
It's right above the
Upstairs.
library.
Okay.
So when you come up the steps or off the elevator, make an immediate hard right turn, and it's kind of back in there, and you'll see the sign for it. Student
Is
Success
that the one with the
Center.
glass? Is that the?
No, the one with the glass is Distance Education Department.
Okay.
It's across from the one with the glass.
Okay.
And kind of down right beside of the elevator.
Okay,
That's
I know
what
what
it
you're talking about.
is.
It's kind of like in the cubby hole.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so now you've got, and your peers, of course, and even with your peers, you can always get one person, get their email down, and then email your stuff to them. Because do you guys do peer review in class?
We do it in class.
In class, yes. But you could always get someone, get their email down, send it to them, and get the feedback on it. I do have a handout that we can do together later on, but first let me just go over a basic MLA. Okay. Do you need help in that area too?
Yeah.
Okay. MLA is used mainly in the English discipline. APA is used in history and sciences, some of the sciences, social sciences. Okay, so this is standard for all disciplines. MLA, APA, Turabian, Chicago. This is standard. They have the double space, they have the Times New Roman font, and it's a 12-point font. So what you should always do is, as soon as you have an English class, you sign up for it, you go in there, you need to set up a template on your computer, which means you open up a Word document and set it all up according to how you need to format it. And then save it, and then next time you have a new essay due, you would just use that template. Open that up, and then save it as your new essay.
So, but that doesn't work for like WordPad or anything like that, right?
It's mainly for Word. And,
Oh, like Microsoft
and,
Word?
Yes.
Okay.
And you could do that in Mac, on a Mac too.
Because I don't have a Microsoft Word on my computer, that's why I was asking.
Do you have Microsoft Works?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
And if I can just jump in, you are able as a student now to download free Office 365, which is the Office suite, which is the Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all.
Okay.
All the students here have access to it for free, so you
Okay.
would be able to have free Word to type in.
Okay, and there is, like, would I Google that, or is that on the CVCC website?
I believe it's on the website where you can access it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Look at this. How many things are you gonna get just because you made time for this workshop? All right, so looking at this essay, this is a student essay from a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. This is a standard without a heading, without anything else. But the MLA otherwise is correct. You have a 12-point Roman, Times New Roman. So how do we know that? Do you see up here, it's Times New Roman, and then it's 12, and it's set for that. Now, what do we do besides setting it all to a Times New Roman and having a double space? Yes. Well, indent the paragraphs, yes. So the paragraphs are indented. That's how we know that there's a new paragraph. Do we need extra space between paragraphs?
Yes?
No.
No? Okay.
Because of the indent, we know that that's the way it should look. So we don't need extra spaces between the paragraphs. Okay, that's a long way to do it, but
Is there a,
yes.
sorry, is there a typical way of indenting, like, that works for all?
Tab.
Okay, I mean, but like, does that indent it exactly how far it's supposed to be indented?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually, it's usually 5 spaces. 5 times you tap the space bar, that equals 1 indent, 1 tab.
Okay.
Okay. But yes, there is a standard. Only rarely you'll have some mess up in the format, but you can always go and fix it.
Okay.
So the next thing we need is, what do we need here? Now, suppose this is all I got. I printed it out and I have to give it to the professor. What's missing?
The title?
Yes, my name is not on there,
Right.
right? So still we have the same font. Your name is Michaela. Okay, can I just call you Smith?
Yes.
So I don't save your information here. Is it with a K?
Miquela.
Okay, Michaela Smith. And then your professor's name. Okay, and then you have English, whatever it is. Are you all in 111? Okay, so you have English 111, you have today's date. So this is something different in MLA. The first thing you do is put the day. So what's today's date?
25th.
25th. So you have 25, then we say the month, and we have the year. Okay. Now, isn't there something weird about it? It should match up with this line right here. So let's see. this helps. Okay, that only worked for. Do you see those things up there? Okay, that's called a scale view. So, you know the ruler that we use? Basically, that's what it is, ruler. And it tells you how many inches. All of this, the outside margin is 1 inch for MLA format. And I think it's the same for AP. So all of it is 1 inch all the way around. That's the spacing you need. Now, the other thing is, suppose this is a 3-page essay plus a works cited page. Have all of you done a research paper yet?
I did an essay where you had to cite the sources. I'm not sure if that's the same thing.
Right. You cite the sources, but then you have a works cited page at the end to give a list of how many sources you used for that paper.
Okay, yeah.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of those pages, it's more than one essay page, so they all need to be numbered, right? Suppose you printed it out, gave it to the professor, he has 15 students, he goes home, he can't see what page number he's at, you know, and how can you fix that? Now I'll show you how to put that in. So what we need to do is insert page number, we do top of page, and then we do plain number 3. And then you put your name, and you have the page number, but the font still needs to be corrected. It always happens. This is why I would save this. Now I've got everything that I need, almost everything. We'll get there. So this is why I would save this and then use it again. Because what happens when you start a new one? You have to change the font. You're wasting a lot of time doing this. Now the next thing we need is a title. Okay. Now this is where the academic comes in. It's a very small issue, but it's still an issue. It shows what kind of thinker you are to your instructor, especially if it's your first paper. Now, this is about Monster. Have you guys heard of a drink called Monster? This paper? Okay, so this is about one of those energy drinks. What kind of title would I put? Would I put essay about an argument essay? Would that be a good title? No. What would be a good title? Just something you made up.
Are energy drinks beneficial?
Yeah, a question is always a good title because this is where you can use any kind of language. You don't have to be academic, or you can use a slang word. It's okay for a title as long as it's attractive and catchy. Okay, so did you say are energy drinks beneficial? Okay, so I'm going to add something to that. So all first big words will be all caps. First letter will be all caps. Are energy drinks turning students into a. Okay. So I just made it something catchy, right? Are energy drinks turning students into a monster? Now, Barry, remember you were talking about structure?
Mm-hmm.
This is where I would fix my title. I typed it in, I didn't think about it. What do you think is wrong with my title? They're not words, it's something to do with grammar. Yes?
I think students should be monsters or something.
Exactly. So this is where it's called an agreement problem when you have one singular and one plural, whether it's a verb or the noun or the antecedent. That's a fancy word, pronoun antecedent agreement. Now, their students, are they becoming one monster, which is A? A is one. What should it be instead?
Monsters.
Monster. Are energy drinks turning students into monsters, right? So that's called a structural problem, and that happens a lot. Even with my good students, it happens a lot. So this is something we want to avoid when we revise our essays. Okay? Our energy drinks turning students into monsters. I'm giving that glimpse of what the paper is going to be about. Now, now we're actually talking. We've got all the formatting stuff out of the way. 1 inch all the way around, 4-line heading over there. It could be Professor Sizemore. And then English 111, you want your section next to it, right? And the date in this form. This form of the date is very important because that's the same thing you'll do on your works cited page, except you'll abbreviate the month. We'll come to that in a couple of minutes. So, would you like to start reading the first paragraph?
Sure. Many have documented that Monster provides a sense of alertness and would claim that this sensation is proof that energy is provided, but alertness is not necessary from energy. A leading pediatrician, Dr. Marcy Schneider, said that the primary substance in energy drinks is a stimulant. The substance to which she refers to is caffeine. Flam explains that as a stimulant drug, caffeine raises heart rate, blood pressure, speech rate, motor activity, and attentiveness. The alertness that Monster provides is not actually from energy at all, but from caffeine. So while users of Monsters may receive a temporary boost in alertness and mistake it for energy, the caffeine itself is usually not providing any energy at all, as it is simply stimulating the nervous system.
Okay. So this is pretty much, it's good grammar, right? We'll go into it individually later on after we look at the sample. Okay, this is an introductory paragraph of a research paper. So in English 112, all of your English 111, right? When you go to English 112, all the papers are going to be research papers. So you'll be doing this in all of your papers. The first thing about research papers is, and academic essays, is that you have to have an argument in there. It's not informing your audience about anything, it is, but it's arguing as well at the same time. Informing is what you did in middle school and high school, mainly. Maybe if you took advanced classes, there was something of an argument. So, for a research or for an academic paper, you have something, one sentence that makes an argument. What is that sentence?
The thesis statement.
Yes, the thesis statement. So the thesis statement has to have your argument in it. Where does the thesis statement usually go?
At the beginning of the first paragraph.
By the first paragraph, do you mean the introductory paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. It does not go in the beginning of the introductory paragraph. It goes at the end of the introductory paragraph. But I think in many high schools teach that. In college, in academic writing, our thesis always goes in the end of the first paragraph. Now, if you were an advanced writer, suppose you graduated from college, you went into some specialized study, and you wrote a paper. What's your interest? What's your name again? Mishak. What's your interest in, like, hobby? What hobby?
Yeah, what?
What hobbies do you have? Just one hobby that you have.
Sports.
Sports. Okay. Say you wanted to write something about sports, right? And you would use some experts in your essay, right? But what you will do is probably talk about sports for 2 paragraphs before you give your thesis statement. If you were writing something, say, for a newspaper. But if you open up any books that you can find on the library database, if you open up essays that people write about anything, could be about women's issues, children's issues, there's always a thesis statement in there. And that's usually found in the beginning, but that's not the first thing of it. Okay, so you've got thesis statement, which is, what does a thesis statement need to have?
Topic.
Yes. Topic plus, argument. So we'll call it claim. Okay? So the thesis statement always needs 2 things, the topic and the claim. Now, as you get advanced, you can also indicate your purpose for this paper as well as your audience for this paper in your thesis statement. But mainly you need topic and a claim. Now, let's go back to the first paragraph. Read the last sentence, Michelle. Should I? Hold on 1 second, let me enlarge it. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, right here, so while.
So why users of monsters may receive a temporary boost in alertness and mistake it for energy? The caffeine itself is actually not providing any energy at all, as it's simply stimulating the nervous system.
Okay, so here we have the thesis statement. It has the topic, users of the energy drink. And is it good or bad for people? What is the student saying?
Bad.
It's bad, okay. So they're saying it's bad. They have the topic, they have the claim. Okay, so we always need to go that way as far as our thesis is concerned. So the student's not just saying Monster is an energy drink that causes people to be alert for 5 hours. It's helpful in getting your projects done and things like that. But it's also making an argument that although these are good things, there's something bad about it, and that's what it does to the nervous system. Yes?
So as far as topic and claim, is it always like a good, bad, format? Is it
Yes, it could be.
Okay.
Because the thing about academic essays is that we're never saying that this is the only thing that it does. So basically, spanking children is terrible. That's not your thesis statement. Or spanking children is the best method of discipline. That's not a thesis statement because you've already said everything there is to say.
Okay.
Right? When you go in on the extremes, you've already said what there is to say. You're not saying anything new to your audience. Okay? So, Barry, if you were talking about your childhood and what kinds of disciplinary method did your parents use, right? And you're informing your audience, then you're saying to them that this was somewhat the best method to use in my case. Right?
Okay.
So that's what you're saying. But you cannot say that that's the only good method of discipline.
Okay.
That would not make a good thesis statement because then the rest of the class, if there's 15 people, 12 people are already checked out. They don't want to hear it anymore. Right?
Okay.
Because they don't agree with you. So we're always telling people what's a new way to look at this. That's what's in your thesis statement.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, there, and usually it could be a good and a bad, or a bad and good. All right. Another thing about introductions is that this is a very common mistake that students make. They will start the introduction by saying a lot of general things, like throughout the history of the world, people have drunk coffee or caffeine to alert, or to stimulate their brains or something like that. That is too general. We're not talking. Many Americans use energy drinks. That's kind of getting better. But what's the best way to look at it? Monster provides a sense of alertness. So if I'm talking about spring, the season of spring, and that's my paper. Okay, suppose I'm presenting it in front of the class, and I say spring is the best season, and many people enjoy it. This is how I start my essay. Do you guys already know that many people enjoy spring? Do you already know that many people like spring as one of their good, favorite seasons? Yes. So we're not giving the obvious. Why would you write a paper about the obvious stuff? You're writing a paper to show someone that I have something to tell you about that you don't already know. So that's a real turnoff. When you start reading a paper and it talks about, like for 3 sentences, all you're talking about is what the world does, but nothing about your topic. So once you've just gone straight into your topic, how does it apply? And we usually don't recommend using sources in the introductory paragraph. Why not? because the introduction is your own words, it's your idea. When do we start using sources? To support some main points. So all this time you've just given us information about what you're going to talk about, the thesis statement, and then once you start arguing it in the body paragraphs, then you will be able to talk about different sources, what John Smith has said about monster, what Kelly Clark has said about monster, and things like that. But mainly these are your words. Another place that you don't use sources is in your conclusion. Why not?
You're basically summing up what was on.
Yes, you're summing up what you said. You're summing up your points. So when you use a source, you're making your audience go, oh yeah, that's interesting too, and they're kind of lost. You're not concluding, you're not putting a closure to it. So what you would do if you did something like Shakespeare said, better 3 hours too early than a minute too late. Now, if you said something general about Shakespeare, about some famous guy today who's like a famous either sports or celebrity person or something, or a celebrity, someone said something and you just put it out there in your conclusion, that's fine. But if you're talking about research material, you want to save it for the body paragraphs. Okay? So you've got introduction and conclusion, which is your own. We're avoiding sources there. And then the body paragraphs is where most of your research will go. Okay. So that's also part of the MLA format. So now let's look at something right here. What is this called? Dr. Marcy Snyder said that. What is that called?
In the in-text citation, or?
Yes. This whole thing is an in-text citation. Now, let me see if this is going to work. Okay, yeah, that should be much better. All right, so now I'm going to draw a box around the whole in-text citation. Okay, right here. This is what your instructor will refer to when they say in-text citations, right? Sometimes they'll give you a number of how many you need to have. And usually you don't want more than 2 or 3 per page. Because if you're just putting too many sources, then you're telling your reader that you haven't thought much about it and it's your topic. Remember, you come up with your own topic, right? So that's what you do. So that's your first in-text citation. And in the in-text citation, this is called a signal tag. Signal tag. This is very important in MLA as well as in any sort of paper that you write. You are telling the student, Michaela is saying that these are my words, but wait, I'm going to tell you that something that I found in research. A leading pediatrician, Marcy Snyder. So you have the full name of the author as well as something that talks about, something that tells us what they do. A leading pediatrician. You can simply say author. You can say expert. You can say critic. If you're talking about literature, mostly critic will apply. So leading pediatrician said this, and then this is called an ending citation. It's always in parentheses. All right. Now I'm going to skip this one because this is not a commonly used. It's quoted in. This is not, I'll go to this one, right? Here you have 2, actually I'm sorry. This is a second in-text citation, so I'm going to draw a box around that one. Now, we're using the same author again, Flan. We're just using the last name in the signal tag. So for ST. Now these are the varieties of signal tags you can use. You can say, a leading pediatrician said simply that, or you can say explains. What other things can you say?
Flan stated.
Stated, yes. Or according to. Or what do you usually do in your papers that we said as far as thesis was concerned? What are you doing with all your papers? It's an A word.
Argument.
Arguing, okay. So you're arguing, and that's a very good word to use for your signal tags, right? For example, John Smith argues that against spanking children, and then you give his quote, and then you put the page number as your ending citation. The period goes after the close parentheses. Okay? So you have the quotation marks right there, you close the parentheses and put the period right there. Now, do you always have to have quotation marks in order to show that you used research?
Yes.
No.
No.
You can paraphrase or summarize
Okay.
the author's words, right? So if you were doing a paper about some health issues, how many of you are familiar with diabetes? Okay, diabetes, okay? My husband has diabetes. So if I wrote about diabetes, then I would say, the H1AC levels increase. But then my audience doesn't know anything about it, so what would I do? I would paraphrase it into words that people can understand. The blood sugar level for 3 months, over a 3-month period of time, if it is increased, then it's harmful to the body. If that's something that I found in a science book, and I'm using that as my research, then I can just put it in my words so that my audience can understand, and without quotation marks. And I still always have a page number at the end, author at the beginning. So you're fencing all your in-text citation with
So-
the signal tag. Yes.
Sorry. No. If you get your idea from a particular source, you need to make sure the page number
Yes.
and everything is
Yes.
quoted.
Very good. So it could be idea, the person's exact words, the person's ideas, the person's research, all of that is someone else's words. We don't want to use them as our own, because that's called plagiarism, right? So sometimes what students will do, let's flip it around for a little bit. Sometimes what students will do is they'll put something like, spring is a season for allergies, and then put author. Like, according to John Smith, spring is a bad season for many people with allergies. Do you really need to research and read an article to know that? No. Maybe you do. But if I said so don't throw in authors or people's names just because you put something and you think, okay, I need to have 5 in-text citations, so let me just throw something in. No. But if I said that 50% of all women over the age of 40 suffer from spring allergies, then I need to cite it, and then my instructor knows that, yes, she did research work and she's writing that. Yes.
What if you're not sure if like if you try to paraphrase what a
Yes.
researcher said,
Yes.
but you're not exactly sure if it would count as plagiarism, can you put the author's name in there and the page number and everything like that just to be on the safe side?
You still need the author's name,
Okay.
remember? So even if I put heart rate, blood pressure, speech rate, motor activity, and attentiveness in my own words, I'm still using that author's ideas.
Still using their
Yes,
ideas?
Yes, the only thing is that you won't have quotation marks there,
Okay.
okay? You'll still say that John Smith says that alert energy drinks increase this in your own words, but you'll still have this ending citation to say what page you got it from, and then you'll have the author's name to say, yes.
Now, if you get it from like a website, can you use the person's name instead of quoting the whole website?
You mean if you get it from an article that you found on a website?
Sure, I was thinking more of a web page, and you found
Okay.
something interesting, like a statistic or something, instead of putting the whole URL in the.
Oh, yes, in MLA, we never use URLs, not in the works cited page, not in the essay itself either, okay? So that's a very good question. Now, I'm not sure about what your instructor said, but as far as I know, you're supposed to use academic sources, which are usually found in the library database. Have you guys used that before? Okay, you go to CVCC, resources, library, and then they have all kinds of data. Did you know that we have University of Virginia's library available to us? Did you know that? Barry, did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Well, now you do. Okay, so you can go there. There's so many different databases. You click on different ones. It's hard in the beginning, but the more research you do, I mean, I didn't have that when I was a student. I had to go to the library, check out books, make sure I renew it, make sure I don't tear it up, spill coffee on it, and things like that. So you want to use that. Try to use it as much as possible. You'll be surprised. Barry, do you like to play any sports?
Not really.
Okay. Do you like, what's one of your hobbies?
I play video games.
Video games. Okay. Maybe you'll, invent something about video games. Maybe you'll write something about its effect on college students or something. You want to go in here, research, read people, how they write. Reading is the best way to write better. Did you know that? But
That's true.
we, in our society today, we don't have time to read, right? We talk a lot, like I'm doing right now, and we watch stuff. But anyway, going back to very good questions about using resources. Now, if I had something like a government issue, taxes.gov, I don't know. So if you were to use that website, right, then you can say according to taxes.gov, you can say that. But we're trying to find as many sources with authors as much as possible. Yes?
And the teacher, he said that be careful of .com, but he said we can use like
.gov and .edu.
Yes,
And
or
.org.
.edu and
Okay.
.gov. So I was wondering how we put it, or put the citation.
Even in those websites, you may find authors. So once you've made sure there's no author for that particular citation or particular information, then you can just say according to the website. You don't have to put .gov in there, but what you would do, or .edu, you could just say according to University of Virginia's science department, or something like that. Whatever you found there, and then you put the quotation marks, and as for your ending citation, you would put end page. Now you might want to write this down. This is the time when you get stuff from the internet it's not in PDF form. So you always use this as your ending citation. End page, which means no page was available. Yes.
Is there other websites other than on the library database that we can use besides .gov and .edu that most instructors would allow?
Allow maybe Google Scholar or Google Books.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, for example, Barry, if I were very interested, now this is very important. When you choose a topic for your papers, make sure it's something you can relate to. Maybe it's something that you're familiar with. It's something that you want to know more about, right? Because at the end of a paper, I know we don't have time and we have other classes too. At the end of a paper, you should know something that you didn't know before then, right? That's why we're trying to get our students to use academic sources. Why? Because those are experts in the field, okay? Now, if I go to my friend who also uses Monster and ask her, what do you think about it? That's pretty good. But when I go to an expert who knows how what's the ingredients in there, who's done research, or maybe he's a chemist who's produced all these kinds of products for the last 15 years, ever since alert drinks or energy drinks have been around. He's been doing that, and he wrote an article about it. He's the expert. Wouldn't you rather use his stuff than Donna Maycomer, my next door neighbor? I don't have a neighbor like that, so don't be looking around. Okay, so that's called academic writing. Yeah, and the more you look, the more you know. Now we're just talking like some other coach. Okay, so very good questions. Any questions about this? Can get very, very, tricky. It's detailed. It's picky. Period after the parentheses, and that's just the formatting. And then we also talked about research and actual what's good stuff to use in your papers.
I just wanted to say something for the library resources. Once you find something you're interested in, they often have the citation available. So you just click on it and it saves it for you. You know, and it's the whole big long da-da-da-da, you know, for your citation page, and it's wonderful.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you can always use that, but make sure you can check. Now, all of you are using that English composition book, textbook, you own that, right? Okay. On page 332, you'll have works cited entries for all of these types of sources. And it's a range of pages, but I'm just giving you where you can find how to cite articles and journals, because sometimes they'll give you a general format in the citation and it doesn't really match exactly with the NMA. Yes. Okay. But you can always use that. What else can you do with the library? You can just, if you had 5 minutes, oh my gosh, my teacher told me to, or my instructor told me to get 3 sources or 3, I didn't do any research. You have 5 minutes, class is starting, what do? You go on the library webpage, you open 3 things up, and some of them look, you see 3 things that you like. But 5 minutes has run out, you don't want to be late to class because you were late the last 2 times too. So what do? You click on the left-hand side, you can email all of that to yourself. Okay. Because I've had students say, oh, Mrs. Koshy, I couldn't find it, and I went back and I couldn't. Because you're not using what's right there in front of you, right? So you can click all of those, email it to yourself, and all you have to do is put your email address. It doesn't take but 30 seconds. Okay? You can also save it. You can create a profile and save it to your, that's what I did when I had my thesis to do. You can save it to your profile and then go back on the library thing and then find it for yourself. But I would say email it to yourself. That's the best thing to do. In the subject line, you just put what essay it is for, and then you can go back even for the next semester. Because for 112, you'll have a lot of research papers. Did I lose my comment? Okay. Can we move on to works cited page? Or do you have questions about, any other questions about research? Right, before I go to the works cited page, I only have 2 paragraphs here, but I just want Barry to read this first sentence, sorry.
Excuse me.
Oh, you can't see?
Yeah, I can see. Okay, so what am I reading?
It's all right. Okay, let me put that another way.
Okay, another way that Monster results in a loss of energy is that the high amount of caffeine in Monster leads to sleep deprivation.
Okay.
Keep reading?
That's good. That's
Okay.
good. Now, that's the first line of the next paragraph. Okay. In MLA, in English 111 and 112, we don't, what do we do in the beginning and the end of a paragraph? Okay, so at the end of a paragraph, do you transition?
Sorry.
Sorry?
Don't you? Yeah.
Well, you
Set it up for the next.
That's how we've learned so far. Before we got to English 111, that's what we did, or even now, that's fine. But as we get into, you know, a higher form of writing, you're closing the paragraph up. So the first line of the paragraph is not a source. You can't say John Smith said this. The first line of a new paragraph is not a source. The first line of a new paragraph is not general information. It's a very specific part of your essay. So the first line of every paragraph counts as it can also, what's it called? Most of you know this.
Transition?
So the first line of a paragraph is called
Oh,
topic
Okay.
sentence. And we learned this in high school, right? But there's also something called the concluding sentence, which is the last line of a paragraph. This is the first line, first sentence, last sentence. Okay, so we are not giving anybody else's information. We are getting this straight out of the thesis. So every line, every topic sentence has an argument in it. It's part of your argument. Okay, every topic sentence has an argument in it. Okay, we're running out of time because I wanted to look at what you have, what you guys have. Okay, so the first and last line is not a source. It doesn't lead to the next paragraph. It kind of it just keeps everything intact. First line says, this is what I'm going to argue in this paragraph. And then the last line says, this is how I'm going to close this argument. And then move on to the second part of your thesis. You know how you have 3 points in your thesis? Traditionally, you don't have to. But energy drinks cause headaches, dizziness, and lack of focus. If I do that, my first paragraph is about headaches. Second paragraph is about dizziness. Third paragraph is about lack of focus.
I forgot.
I know, I almost lost focus too. So that's how we're doing it. This is academic writing. We're not doing our elementary stuff anymore. We're saying, look, I'm past all that. This is my argument for this paragraph. Next paragraph, this is my argument. Go straight into your topic. No dilly-dallying, no beating around the bush. Okay, so we've got all the general stuff out of the way. Now, do you see how Smith 2 came here, right? We renamed Michaela's last name to Smith, and we got Smith 1, Smith 2. If I added the works cited page to it, it'll automatically do Smith 3. So I don't have to worry about, once I've set this up, I don't have to worry about it ever again until yes.
Okay, so let me just make sure I got this right. You said that the first line of every paragraph is an argument?
Yes, it's a mini argument.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you have the research quotation.
It should not have the research. No research in the first line and last sentence, first sentence and last sentence of a paragraph, because it's your main point. Once I wrap this up, I'll show you guys. Okay. Going to the works cited page. Now this is my current student. Did a works cited page. What should I have? I should have that Smith up here, and it should be page 3 according to what we have so far. So Smith 3 will go up on top. Again, I'll show you how to do it. Insert, page number, top, plain 3, and then, okay, and I'm going to learn how to type to Smith. All you need is this for the works cited page. You don't need that 4-line header on the top left-hand side. And then you have the word works cited centered in the middle. It's not works cited, it's not references, it's not bibliography, it's works cited in MLA. Okay, so what is this called? When you indent it like that, what is that called? Hanging indent. So you can do that by going into paragraph. You see the special? You can have first line or hanging. So that's what we have here. Why do we do this? I asked my students to do 3 sources for this particular paper. Now, when you look at the works cited page, how many are there? How are you sure of that?
Because it's easy to see.
Yes, because they're all sticking out here. Only the names of the authors are sticking out. Now I know there are 3 sources. Do you see how long the entries are? So you want all of the other stuff to be pushed away so you can see 1, 2, 3 sources. I don't have to read it to know that my student has it. That's why we use the hanging indent. Okay. Now, what else do I need to fix as far as just formatting? All of this needs to be double spaced. Double space. Now, I'm picky about this. I don't know if your instructors are, but all of this is double space. But do you feel like there's more space here than between these 2 lines? There it is. So what would you do is you can just highlight everything. Go here and do you see remove space before and after paragraph? We don't need that extra spaces. Let's click on paragraph. This is the one that works best for a whole page. Don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. Do you see that? Now, as far as, oh, no. Under the works cited, there's less Do you see that? There's less spacing right there. So let me change it to 2. And then let's see if we can remove space. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so it's about having everything clean. And also by doing this, when you print it out and you have revisions, you can write in between the lines. That's why it's double spaced. Let's just look at one entry and then I'll close this up. Okay, the first entry is you've got authors, you've got a title, and then you know it's a journal article because the next thing is a journal of personality and social psychology. Okay, so first thing we need is the last name of the author, first name, and the word, and gears and that. Now, does the year belong here? Not for MLA. MLA is always concerned about who said it, not when they said it. But for history and other things, they want to know when did they say this because they want to record the chronology of events, right? So now, the next thing is the title of the article. What's missing there?
All of the big major words aren't capitalized.
Well, that's probably because the article didn't. See, nowadays you'll have all caps in some of the titles. You'll have this. So you do whatever you see. You just copy whatever title, however they wrote it. Okay. But we need quotation marks. For journal articles, magazine articles, poems, essays, we need quotation marks. Then we have the title of the journal of personality and social psychology. Say I'm using this in my essay. I should never say in the journal of personality and social psychology, they say that marriage, many marriages are ruined. You know, let me just say something like that. Okay, I don't say that because did I read the whole journal? No, I ain't got time to read 2 pages. Forget about a journal. So a journal is a big fat book with like 100 articles in it. You chose one of those, and they wrote it. Neff and Gears wrote it. So we're always saying Neff and Gears the second time. The first time we use the whole name. So Neff and Gears said in their article, optimistic expectation, blah, blah, blah. You will write that whole thing out the first time. And the following next time, you'll just say Neff and Gears. Also explain that that is not common for marriages in Virginia. You know, something like that. So you've got the journal italicized. You italicize the title of journals, the title of books, the title of basically that's a magazine. Okay, so basically that's what you italicize. You do not italicize these articles. Now, there's no punctuation after the journal because the journal keeps producing itself. It's usually quarterly or annually. So because it's quarterly or annually, now the next thing is the volume and issue. Do you see 105.1? That's the volume. But the parentheses need to be removed. You need a period to indicate that's a volume or issue. So we never use the words volume or issue. The period indicates that. Next thing is the date. Did we just remove the date earlier? So let's put that back here in parentheses. I think it was 2009. And then a colon, then the page number, then period. Very complicated. What's the next thing? The database. What's one of the databases you guys use? Anyone use ProQuest? Google Scholar? Okay. Let's do Google. The database also needs to be italicized. I forgot to mention that. Okay. And then the next thing is web, because it's a web source, and most of our sources are web sources. Very rarely will you use, you can, but that is one full entry. Yes?
Question.
Yes.
If you find a doctor who wrote a particular subject and he has his own website and he has his little credentials and everything.
Okay.
How would we quote that? It's not a book.
He probably has a title for his article because of whatever illness, for example, research on cancer, on leukemia or something. So he'll have a title for that.
So on the
Then you-
works side, we would quote his website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And for something like that, I think your instructor would okay it, but sometimes it'll just be, self-proclaimed expert. Like I'll create a website, I'm an expert on academic writing, but I'm not. So this is a long one. Like she said, you can use the cite button, but you want to make sure this is, and how else can you make sure? By going to page 332 of your textbook. The textbook has all of this. And it also has a sample of essay to show you different signal tags, different varieties of how it has a long essay at the end of the textbook where you'll have all of this information to cite different books, sources, how they start paragraphs. And I told you guys how important it is that your first sentence of paragraphs are not sources, are not just general information, but they come straight out of the thesis. How do you know that? You go into take out a book from the library or from your backpack. If you read the first line of your paragraphs, you will get a gist of what the whole chapter is about. Because that's how everyone should be writing. This is a general, you're like, why are we so picky? Because this is a general, it's accepted in all of the world. Okay, this is a general way to write academic. So I'm just going to close it up now. And I know Barry has a paper with him. Do you have something specific? What's your name?
My name's Wendy.
Wendy, do you have some?
I don't work with you.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to do that paragraph thing one more time on the board and turn this off. Now you can always fix format and that. You can always go back to your textbook to do that. You can always have your instructor look at it. But as far as putting your essays together, the more you revise, the better it's going to get. Have you guys heard of Robert Frost? Yes?
Yes.
Only one person? 2? 3? Okay. So Robert Frost, for example, he wrote a famous poem, I can't remember. But he wrote 37 drafts of it before it got famous. 37 drafts. He's a smart man. He probably had his master's in creative writing, and all that. 37 drafts. If he needs that, how much more do we need, right? So don't give up, and the better you research write, the better your ability in every other place, every other aspect of what you do. Okay, you have a class, I guess?
I do. I have
Okay,
a class
go,
too.
go.
So, thank you.
Sure, no problem.